हाय एवरीवन, आई एम कुशल विजय, आई एम अ सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर एट माइक्रोसॉफ्ट। वेलकम बैक टू अनदर वीडियो। सबसे पहले तो आप सभी को यार हैप्पी होली। आई होप आपकी होली बहुत अच्छे से गई होगी। तो यार बेहतरीन सा वीडियो आप सभी के लिए लेकर आ गया हूँ, जिसमें हमारे साथ है प्रियांश अग्रवाल, जिनका नाम आपने सुना ही होगा। उनका सेपरेट चैनल है जहाँ पे बहुत अच्छी सी ऑडियंस है, काफ़ी अमेजिंग सा कंटेंट वहाँ प्रोवाइड करते हैं। तो उसकी लिंक आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में मिल जाएगी। लेकिन जो इस वीडियो हम बातचीत करने वाले हैं वो काफ़ी अमेजिंग होने वाली है, बिकॉज यार उन्होंने इतनी अपनी कोडिंग स्किल से अपनी इतनी ज़्यादा इनकम सोर्सेज बना लिए पहली बात तो, और वो खुद का इनिशिएटिव चला रहे हैं जस्ट टू टीच स्टूडेंट्स। तो काफ़ी अमेजिंग सी वीडियो होने वाली है। बहुत अच्छे अच्छे क्वेश्चन मैंने पिकअप कर लिए हैं, तो उस बारे में जान लेंगे। लेकिन शुरू करने से पहले मैं आपको दो तीन चीज़ें एक अपॉर्चुनिटी के बारे में बता देता हूँ, ताकि आपको वीडियो के बीच में इंटरप्शन ना हो। कोडिंग निंजास का जो स्कॉलरशिप टेस्ट है वो फिर से हो रहा है यार। काफ़ी बार ये स्कॉलरशिप टेस्ट करते हैं और अमेजिंग स्कॉलरशिप्स प्रोवाइड करते हैं। अप टू 100% स्कॉलरशिप इनके अमेजिंग कोर्सेज पे प्रोवाइड करते रहते हैं। आपको पता ही होगा यार कि इनके जो कोर्सेज हैं वो बेहतरीन इंस्ट्रक्टर्स ने डिज़ाइन कर रखे हैं और वेल स्ट्रक्चर्ड है। IITs एंड स्टैनफोर्ड जैसी इंस्टीट्यूट से पढ़े हुए हैं और अमेजॉन और फेसबुक जैसी कंपनीज में काम किए हुए हैं। नॉमिनल सी फीस है इनके रजिस्ट्रेशन की, जो स्कॉलरशिप टेस्ट का रजिस्ट्रेशन 99 रुपीज़ या 100 रुपीज़ की फ़ीस होती है, जिस पे 50% डिस्काउंट आपको मेरे कूपन कोड से मिल जाएगा। तो फिर भी आपको कोई डाउट है तो आप मुझसे पूछ सकते हैं। आपको मिलेगा क्या स्कॉलरशिप टेस्ट देने से? स्कॉलरशिप मिल सकती है अप टू 100%, ठीक है। तो वो तो अमेजिंग सी अपॉर्चुनिटी अक्रॉस ऑल द कोर्सेज एट कोडिंग निंजास। साथ ही साथ आपको इंटरव्यू प्रिपरेशन की बुक मिलेगी, जिसकी जो मार्केट कॉस्ट है वो 1500 रुपीज़ है। साथ ही साथ एक ट्रेनिंग सर्टिफिकेट भी मिलता है आपको अगर आप एनरोल करते हैं किसी कोर्स के अंदर। तो यार काफ़ी अच्छी सी अपॉर्चुनिटी है, इसको मिस मत करो। मैं टाइमलाइन के बारे में बता देता हूँ। 22 को इनका स्कॉलरशिप टेस्ट है। अगर 22 को नहीं दे पाते हो आने वाली 22 मार्च को, तो आप 23 को दे देना, कोई चक्कर नहीं है। आप में से बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स प्लेसमेंट और इंटर्नशिप सीजन के लिए प्रिपेयर कर रहे होंगे, और आप अगर परेशान हो गए और डिफरेंट जो इतने सारे सोर्सेज आपको इंटरनेट में मिल रहे हैं उनसे परेशान हो गए, तो एक बार कोडिंग निंजास ट्राई करके देख लो। सबसे अमेजिंग बात तो ये यार, कोडिंग निंजास आपको 1-on-1 डाउट सपोर्ट तो देते ही हैं, प्लेसमेंट सेल भी देते हैं। तो जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ जो आपको मिल सकती हैं फ्यूचर में, उसका भी ध्यान रखता है कोडिंग निंजास। तो मिस मत करो यार। और इस बेहतरीन से वीडियो को भी शुरू कर लेते हैं, चलो। So first of all, thank you, Priyansh, for taking out time. Let's start the session with a small intro of yours. Over to you.
Hi, Kushal. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Priyansh Agarwal. I have been doing competitive programming for the past 2.5 years. Right now, I'm a candidate master on codeforces with an India rank of under 110. Apart from that, I also have my YouTube channel on competitive programming itself, and also like a dedicated course on competitive programming, which is called TLE Eliminators. Apart from all the competitive programming, I am also an incoming intern at Goldman Sachs. And right now I'm also interning, or I would like kind of call it like a freelance work. So I am doing some freelance work at Relevel, which is around problem testing. So for those of you who know about this platform called Relevel, you guys would have been solving some problems on this platform. So a lot of problems on that platform have been tested by me personally. So yeah.
One point to be noted here is the video is not sponsored by Relevel, and you can find Priyansh's channel link in the description. You can check out his channel. There is a lot of content over competitive programming, and it is going to help you. So Priyansh, we want to know about your journey, how you started and why you started competitive programming, in the first place.
Okay, so I started competitive programming, I guess, at the end of my first semester or in the middle of my second semester. So one of the primary reasons I started was because I wanted to get into the competitive programming club of IIIT Delhi, which is called FUBAR. So FUBAR is supposed to be like, one of the elite clubs at IIIT Delhi. So I wanted to get into it, and the only way to get into FUBAR was to, be very good at competitive programming. Another reason for starting competitive programming was definitely, the placements part, because I had heard that, if you're very good at competitive programming, cracking coding interviews and coding tests would be like a cakewalk for you. And I can tell you from my own experience that it has been pretty much a cakewalk as far as the interviews and the coding tests are concerned. I mean, this is for people who are, at a very good level in competitive programming. Anything that you're attempting, any coding test will seem very easy to you. Right. So these are the two reasons that because of which I actually started competitive programming. And obviously, like, problem solving was one of the things that I loved. So yeah, that's another reason.
Great. So what you started first doing DSA, because students have this confusion, like like, after learning a particular language, should we go for DSA or should we go for competitive programming? So what you did first, because you might be filled up with these thoughts that you need to learn DSA in order to get a job. So like how you differentiated between the two and move forward with.
Okay, so I think there are like two paths to it. If you want to get very good at competitive programming, particularly, then learning all the data structures algorithms first would not make a lot of sense. But if you are prepared, if you're doing competitive programming just because of the fact that you want to get a good job, then I would say you can start with DSA. But my main aim, like I said, when I was starting CP, was not particularly to get a good job. It was more, kind of to get very good at CP particularly, right? So instead of going for DSA, what I did was, after learning a language, I learned Python first of all, and then as I went on in competitive programming, I realized that C++ would be more suited to it. So in the starting part, I just learned Python and was solving some problems on codeforces, attempting some rounds on CF, and that was pretty much it. I did not do any DSA. But for people who are preparing or who are doing competitive programming, particularly because of the fact that they want to get a good job, I would say go for DSA. But if you haven't done DSA, it's totally fine. You can start with CP.
Students also go in this direction that we should study Python and DSA because things are pretty much easy. So what is your advice to those folks? Because if they'll spend a lot of time doing DSA in Python, going back to C++ would be difficult. So what should be your advice to those folks?
Okay, so first of all, like, I want to say that it is not totally wrong to be doing something in a particular language. Like if you're doing DSA in Python as well, it's totally fine. But when it comes to performing or participating in certain coding rounds, then it would be preferred that you choose a language that is more suited to what you're doing. So for competitive programming, it is much better if you are doing it in C++ or in Java, right? And similar is the case with DSA. I feel that in Java and in C++ there are things like Java Collection Framework and C++ STL. So these are certain things which come very handy when you're implementing certain data structures. And in Python, I don't think there are quite a lot of libraries. For people who have been doing CP in Python as well for like 2 or 2.5 years, they know that there are certain libraries. But for people starting out or for people who have spent around 6 months, I don't think they would be able to even figure out how to do certain things in Python.
Cool. Now the most critical question that every student face: how to approach a particular problem, either in DSA or either in competitive programming, because this is the most difficult part. Once you learn how to approach a problem, things might get easy, moving forward. So how you approach a particular problem?
Okay. So as far as approaching a problem is concerned, the main part is, first of all, to read it correctly. So I feel that for people who are at a very good level as well, it happens with me as well for a lot of times, that when I look at a problem, I just assume that this problem wants me to solve a particular sub problem, and that problem is not actually that that whole thing that I'm actually assuming. So the very first thing is that you should read the problem statement very clearly, totally understand it, and then go for any approach. And as far as approaches are concerned for a particular problem, most likely, if you are familiar with a lot of data structures, with a lot of algorithms, the problem is going to revolve around a particular data structure that you already learned. So instead of thinking in any random direction, first of all, try to think that what are certain sub problems in this particular problem. Let's say this problem requires you to solve, let's say, 3 tasks. And for each of these tasks, now you know that this can be solved in order of n, this can be solved in order of n square, this can be solved in order of n square again, right? Now you know that this problem has to be solved in, let's say, order of n log n, something like that, order of n or order of n log n. So now you need to think that this sub problem is getting solved in order of n square right now. How do I optimize it? So now you think of the data structures algorithms that you can use to optimize that part, right? And another thing that I want to mention as far as problem approaching is concerned is to to relate problems to the already solved problems, right? So let's say you solved a lot of problems already and you look at a problem. So instead of thinking in any random direction or thinking about all the time and space complexities, try to relate it to a problem that you've already practiced. And this is like a very good tip for dynamic programming. I don't know a lot about, I don't think that this tip will apply to a lot of other data structures so much. But for dynamic programming, I feel that this is one of the golden tips. Try to relate every DP problem to the past DP problems that you've solved.
Great tip. So, Priyansh, this is the way you approach a problem now. So when you started doing CP, you obviously you were not, right now you are expert and you are very good at CP. But when you started, you were at the same level, like, you were at a beginner level. So what was your approach at that time?
That time it was like pretty random. So when I used to look at a problem, I used to just think about the brute force solution to solve it. So this was one approach that I always used in the starting phase, and this is like a wrong approach. First of all, I want to say that, which is that you look at a problem, you think about the brute force approach on the very first try. Let's say I tell you to solve a particular problem, you come up with something like recursive approach. Then you optimize it to order of n cube. Then you optimize it to order of n square. Then to order of n. Then to order of something like log n. Approach when it comes to competitive programming. It can be a good approach for approaching problems in interviews. That can be totally fine. But when it comes to CP, this is not a good approach because it will take a lot of your time to first think about the recursive approach, then optimize it. So I feel that you should try to skip steps as much as possible when you are thinking. But in the initial stage, I also used to do it like that, and this used to take up a lot of my time. I used to even start implementing things. Like if I come up to a recursive solution, I used to implement it. Then I used to implement the order of n cube solution, which was like totally insane. That you shouldn't do. And apart from that, there was one more thing which one more difficulty that I faced in the starting phase, which was that I was not very good with time and space complexity analysis. The very first thing, the very main foundation that you should build is your time and space complexity analysis. Because without that, if I give you a problem without constraints, that is not a problem, right? That is like an open-ended problem. But when we talk about DS and CP, problems are not open-ended; they are constrained with certain constraints. And if you analyze these constraints, then only can you come up with a certain approach and analyze the time and space complexity.
Got it. So Priyansh, practice is something which can make you better in anything, either CP, either DSA, or any particular skill, right? But what is that one secret that helped you getting better in CP other than practicing a lot of problems?
Right. So that is actually a really difficult question to answer because I feel when you talk about any particular skill, like practicing is the major component in that. Right. But apart from that, I can talk about some other things that are very important and people kind of neglect them. One of them is consistency. Like I feel that if you're practicing, let's say, for 5 days and you're doing 500 problems, it is not as good as you being consistent for around 30 days and practicing 5 problems every day. I feel that if you are consistent over a longer period of time, that is much better than solving a lot of problems in one go. Right, that is one thing. And apart from that, I feel that not a lot of people are a part of a good community when it comes to competitive programming. So a lot of people are just solving random problems on codeforces, codechef everywhere. But whenever they're getting stuck somewhere, they don't have anybody to help. They don't have any forum where they can write their queries. That is what I feel where people sort of miss out. Right. So for that, I think you should definitely join some Discord server. Like you can probably join my Discord server as well. You can join Ericto's Discord server. There is one Discord server by Galen Colin. So these are Discord servers particularly for competitive programming, and there are people who are helping out each other in that. And there are a lot of quality discussions that happen there. Like I feel there are a lot of discussions which are revolving around a lot of problems which are very trendy right now. Let's say somebody is talking about Hungarian algorithm. So everyone in that Discord server is kind of looking at that, and if they feel that this is something that they don't know, they can even ask that person or Google it up and learn about that. These are I think the two.
And folks, you can find his Discord server's link in the description, so you can check it out and make the most out of it. So Priyansh, in particular, what resources have you used to get yourself better in competitive programming?
So if you talk about the resources that I've used from the very beginning, initially I took a course at Coding Ninjas. That was one thing, which was like a paid course. So I don't think we should be talking a lot about paid resources right now. So as far as the free resources are concerned, I think there is a website called CP Algorithms. This is like one stop where you can look at every algorithm, every data structure that sort of exists in competitive programming. So if you're stuck at any algorithm, or if you want to know the implementation of any algorithm, CP Algorithms is something that you should refer. I mean, this is like kind of an unpopular opinion, but I don't think you should be referring to geeks for geeks when it comes to implementing a certain algorithm or, implementing a certain data structure. I personally have, bricked on a lot of contests just because of the fact that I picked up some implementation from geeks for geeks and it turned out to be wrong.
Oh.
Right. So don't do that when you are actually attempting a contest. If you want to, know the implementation of a certain algorithm, go for CP algorithms instead of geeks for geeks. Right. And apart from that, there is a problem set called CSES problem set. So this is like kind of, some standard problems that exist in CP. And I feel that if you're done with even 50% of the problems from this problem set, the new problems that you'll be solving, you will be able to relate them to the problems that you solved on CSES. So I personally, whenever I'm solving a particular problem, it is very likely that, it is somehow related to the CSES problem. It is somehow related to one of the CSES problems that I've solved.
Priyansh, now you are a very good, computer programmer. So how many problems do you solve on daily basis when we compare it from when you started to the day to today?
Okay, so when I started, it was more like, solving one problem per day or something like 2 problems per day. And it was very random. There used to be some days where I could not solve even a single problem because I was getting a lot of errors, runtime errors, TLE, everything like that, right? It was because I did not know a lot of algorithms, not a lot of data structures, not a lot of techniques, and I did not even know time and space complexity analysis, right? So initially, I was like kind of very inefficient. If I was even putting in 6 hours a day, I used to only get around 1 to 2 problems. But now if I put in 6 hours a day, I would definitely get around 10 or 12 problems. And when I say 10 or 12 problems, these are problems which are kind of like medium or hard level for me. So this is the kind of efficiency that I get now. So I don't usually put 6 hours a day now. I am mostly like putting in around 2 or I guess 3 hours a day. And most probably I am getting around 4 to 5 problems of my own level right now.
What difficulty level of problems can make a student better at CP?
Okay, so when you talk about becoming better at any skill, if you are at a particular level and if you're not, practicing at a harder level, I don't think you will be improving. So that is one thing. I feel if you are at any level, let's say your level is defined by a particular codeforces rating. Let's say you're at rating something like 1500, 1600, anything like that. Right. The idea should be to solve problems which are harder for you. Now, when I say harder for you, it does not have to be necessarily, plus 200 or plus 300 rated on codeforces. For example, if let's say I am 1900 rated right now, I might, be not very comfortable with even 1700. So instead of going for 2100, it makes sense to first of all get very good and very comfortable with 1700. Right. So it is totally normal to even solve a bunch of easy problems initially to get yourself comfortable with a particular difficulty range. Right. That said, if let's say your current level is X and you're solving problems which are X plus 100 or X plus 200, you will get stuck. It will be, you will be very inefficient. First of all, even if you're putting in 3 hours a day, you will be only getting 1 or maybe 2 problems. Right. So that you'll have to accept. So I think you should definitely be solving harder problems. But that said, you should also be, sometimes solving easy problems to focus on your speed. So I'll tell you exactly how this is very important. So let's say you are solving problems of difficulty 2400 when you are 2200 rated, right? And now you attempt 5 contests, right? Now, in order for you to be able to solve that 2400 rated problem in a contest, you have to first of all, solve the easier problems very quickly, right? So if you have, let's say, 6 problems in a codeforces round, and if your current level is to solve 4 problems in every round, and you're trying to get that 5th problem, so you will only be able to get that 5th problem if you are very quick with the first 4. If you spend like 75 or 80% of the contest in the first 4 problems, you won't get the 5th one, right? So instead of just solving very hard problems, it is very important that, once in a while you come back to easy problems and try to, have some speed runs on them.
Yeah. Great. So as you all, you mentioned in between that initially you choose random topics and random algorithm problems. So how you do it now? Like, do you plan learning a particular topic or do you still go for random problems?
I think I still go for random problem solving. It is mostly like, I am solving problems which are hard for me. So right now I am mostly focusing on problems that are 2100 rated and 2200 rated on codeforces. Now, the thing with this rating range is that, every single problem that you're solving, either certain thing that can be applied here or you don't know a certain thing, right? It won't be like a very random problem. So for problems which are very hard, something like 2100 above, these are problems which are, not very constructive, which are not very greedy. Like there is not like a single logic that you come up with and you just implement it. It is not like that. Mostly it is like you come up with certain, let's say 5 ideas. Now you narrow it down to one idea, and now you have to think of a very advanced data structure to actually implement this idea. Right. So mostly when I'm solving very hard problems, something like 2100 or 2200 rated, I first of all try to get the approach on my own, the final approach. But most of the times what happens is that even after narrowing down to the approach, I don't know a particular data structure, or I don't know a particular advanced technique. So when I try to narrow it down to a particular approach and I try to code it up, I see that I am getting stuck in trying to optimize certain things. So then I try to Google it. And let's say I get to know about a particular concept, I just learn it and then I implement it. That is how I'm doing it now.
Great. Okay, so a very important question: what opportunities you got by, you are doing CP since like more than 2 years now. So what opportunities you got because of your computer programming skills?
Okay, that's actually a very interesting question. So if you remove competitive programming, I can put it like this: if you remove competitive programming from my life, I think the 90% or I would say 95% of the things that I'm known for, that I've done till now, would sort of vanish. That is something that I can say. So if you talk about opportunities, I think my whole YouTube channel runs, around this concept of competitive programming. So that is like a major opportunity that I've got. And I think also the re-level work that I'm doing, the freelance work that I'm doing at re-level, that is particularly because of my competitive programming skills. And I can assure you that, they're paying me good amount. Like if I sort of compare it to my internship that I'm getting right now, I think re-level is paying me much more than that for the work that I'm doing, like almost 1/10 of the work that I'll be doing at my intern. Right. So that is one major opportunity. And apart from that, I also have my course called TLE Eliminators on CP, right? So that is also like kind of creating some revenue for me, right? So that is another opportunity that I've got. And apart from that, being able to do competitive programming at a good level also, helps you get connected to a lot of other people, a lot of other talented people. So I do get connected with a lot of other talented people on LinkedIn or let's say Twitter. And that's another, that creates a whole, bunch of opportunities for you in itself.
Exactly. I mean, definitely your network grows exponentially when you do good in a particular domain, and I came to know about you via Twitter and LinkedIn only. People are mentioning you. If you want to do something in computer programming, you can follow these folks. So that's how I came to know about you, and right now we are here. So definitely great talk, actually great chat, and even I got to know a lot of new things. Thanks for your time, Priyansh. Really appreciate that, and all the best for your endeavors ahead.
Thank you so much, Kushal, for having me. It was really a pleasure coming up and, answering so many questions here. And I hope a lot of people benefit from this whole podcast.
I hope मज़ा आ गया होगा यार, काफ़ी अमेजिंग सी चीज़ें जानने को मिल गई होगी. अगर अभी भी कोई डाउट रह जाता है मेरे लिए या फिर उनके लिए, प्रियांश के लिए, तो आप उनसे कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं. मैंने उनकी सारी सोशल हैंडल्स डिस्क्रिप्शन में मेंशन कर दी है. साथ ही साथ मेरे लिए कोई डाउट है तो प्लीज़ कमेंट करके बता दो, या फिर सोशल मीडिया पे कहीं भी मुझसे कनेक्ट कर लो. रेज्यूमे रिव्यू, लिंक्डइन रिव्यू एंड ब्ला ब्ला और भी बहुत सारी चीज़ें हमारे जो टेलीग्राम ग्रुप है उस पर होती रहती है. जो हमारा 4 मंथ का प्लान है, ठीक है, वो नहीं देखा है अभी तक तो उसे ज़रूर देख लेना, क्योंकि प्लेसमेंट सीजन आ रहा है. प्लेसमेंट स्ट्रैटेजी बहुत ज़रूरी है, तो डू चेक इट आउट. उसके लिंक भी आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में मिल जाएगी. मिलते हैं ऐसे किसी वीडियो में, और यहाँ पे 2-4 वीडियोज़ आ रहे हैं, वो भी देख लो यार, गरीब आदमी की सुन लो, ठीक है, और सब्सक्राइब भी कर देना और लाइक भी कर देना. चलो मिलते हैं ऐसे किसी वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए बाय, टेक केयर.